as Dear SSM. I'm the guy that wrote you the stories about the post-divorce girlfriend that I did the mental gymnastics with and the prequel about my divorce. I thought I'd share another story with you about a gal that tried to friend zone me and one of the rare times I felt like I came out ahead in my youth when dealing with the opposite sex. As a bonus, I'll humbly submit another occupation to be on the lookout for in addition to the ones you always tell us to look out for. Well, I always tell you to watch out for the nurses, we all know that, and he's going to add another one to this story here. This story takes place in the early 90s, about 6 months before I started dating Cindy, my future ex-wife. Okay, early 90s, guys. We're talking 30 plus years ago, before dating apps and before social media, before, hell, even cell phones. You start getting cell phones by mid-90s, unless it was like the real gigantic ones, but definitely a different world. And before I joined the Air Force. I was waiting tables at a restaurant, and I started dating a gal that I will call Christy, who was a hostess at the restaurant. Prior to having the relatively stable job of being a hostess at a restaurant, she had worked with a traveling carnival. Yes, I was dating a former carny. Oh, for goodness sakes. Yeah, no thanks. He says, SSM, if you think nurses don't make good girlfriend material, carnies and former carnies are even worse. Well, that should have been pretty obvious, but you were a young guy and you wanted to get some, so obviously common sense went out the door. They have no desire to settle down and will easily sleep with anything that moves. Stay away. Well, I'll certainly remember that when the circus folk come around here in South Florida. At the time, I had two roommates who I will call Chad and Rob that I lived with. I chose the name Chad because he was a total Chad, as you described, that slept around. Further, he had been unemployed for almost as long as he had been my roommate, living on unemployment because he got blackballed from his industry for sleeping with the boss's wife. Yeah, sounds like a great guy. So, yeah, no, this is not someone, frankly, and it's going to prove right who you want to associate with, let alone count on for to pay the rent and split the utilities with. On some occasions, when Christy would come over to our apartment to hang out, I noticed how friendly Chad and Christy would get. My gut told me this was a bad thing, and unlike most of the guys in your stories, I chose to try to head it off by talking with both of them separately about my concerns. Do you think they cared? Do you think Chad cared? Chad's the type of guy, just like the Chads, that wants to spread his seed everywhere. He could care less. And this guy's a scumbag. And your girl, as you learned, is a scumbag too. And since all the girls want him, of course she wants her piece of him too. I told them that I felt like there was something between them, and I elicited promises from both of them, and they would not betray me by sleeping with each other. What can I say? I didn't know how else I could head off the coming storm. But I truly believed that Chad would at least put my friendship before hooking up with some girl. Yeah, not a chance. Well, a few months later, Chad was running out of unemployment insurance and still could not find a job, so he made the decision to move out of the apartment and move back in with his parents. Well, that's a good thing, actually. And by the way, I'm sure he could get a job, he just didn't want to. The day that he was moving out, Christy and Chad came up to me and told me that she was moving in with him and she was leaving me. So much for your little discussion about things and them promising you the world, huh? Well, you know what? Now she's Chad's problem. As you can imagine, I was pissed off and yelling at both of them about how they both had betrayed me. Chad simply said, I don't get why you're so upset. It's not that big a deal. What an asshole. Obviously, this is your girlfriend and you care, and now you're humiliated and hurt and all that. And Christy would say, I didn't leave you for him. I was going to leave you anyway, and I happened to go to him now. Oh, okay. Well, hence the carnies, the circus folk. After a lot of cussing from me at both of them, I was happy to see them leave. Of course, it didn't change the fact that I still had to see Christy at work. It was annoying, but what could I do? It was about this time that I had made arrangements to leave it for the Air Force, and I was scheduled to depart in 6 months. Oh yeah, by the way, smack for dating a gal and getting a relationship with a gal you work with. Now, here's the thing. I dated a gal I worked with at a restaurant in around 1999, and it was a mistake, and I learned, so I'll admit I messed up too. I was 21 years old, young and dumb, and you were too. And now we can spread this to everybody else. Now, by the way, the restaurant job was a temporary thing for him, but it doesn't matter because now he has to see her. And those who worked in restaurants all know, guess what? Everybody's hooking up with everybody else. It is what it is. Ain't girlfriend material. Anyway, I continued to work at the restaurant, and aside from the occasional snipping that Christy would send my way, I continued to work and started working at a second restaurant across town to pay off some of the bills that Chad had left me with. There's a freaking surprise. Not only does he take your girl, but also he leaves you with some bills. What can I say? In Chad's case, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. It was about 3 weeks later that some flowers were delivered to Christy on her birthday at the restaurant. Well, that wasn't from Chad, I can tell you that. I made the arrangements for this to happen before we broke up. Yes, I really do plan things out that far ahead, and I've forgotten about them. You sent Christy, a former carny, flowers at the restaurant? You don't give girls like that flowers. You don't give them dead flowers. When they arrived, she realized that no one else, including Chad, had thought about her birthday. As I was packing up to head onto my second job, she came into the break room and rushed over to give me a hug, shocking me in the process. I'd be like, keep your slutty hands off me. He says, if I had remembered the arrangements I made, I would have canceled them. When she let go, she told me that she still wanted to be my friend. Aw, how nice. She wants to be your friend. Gee, great, after we were a couple and used to sleep together and all that. How nice of you. Translation, she wants to keep you around, pining for her and your backup, and probably could, lend her some money when money's tight or she misses a shift. That's what she wants you for. I was shocked, but after a moment, I told her, okay, why don't we get together and talk about it? Now, I'm sure that you just smacked me, SSM, so let me just say that I had no intention of ever trusting her or trying to be her friend. I didn't smack you because I know how the story goes, and I know you were not trying to be her friend. But for any of you guys that are new to the channel and new to hearing this stuff, do not accept the friend zone. Your girl breaks up with you and says, but we can still be friends. I care for you so much as a friend. So no, not a chance. Either we're working this shit out, whatever the issue is, or I'm moving on. I'm not going to be your buddy, your friend, because they'll never respect you. And it'll be hell on earth for you trying to be friends with a girl while she's out doing Chad and Tyrone. Don't ever do it, guys. That's for all the new folks coming in. I was just thinking that this might be a good opportunity to screw with her. I told her we should get together the day after tomorrow for lunch to talk about it. And you are buying me lunch. She looked a little shocked and stammered a bit before she reluctantly agreed to meet me at lunch in 2 days. Yeah, she's thinking, first she said lunch, she's like, oh yeah, great, I get a free lunch from this dipshit. Oh, I gotta pay? Fine. Well, we met at the restaurant and we both ordered some food as we sat down and talked. She told me how much she missed my friendship. She told me how much she missed how good I was to her and how she really wanted to maintain a friendship with me. Uh-huh. Finally, she repeated her earlier statement that she was going to break up with me anyway and how Chad was who she wanted to be with, but she still wanted my friendship. Let's not forget that she cheated on this guy. I haven't forgotten that. I'm sure you haven't forgotten that. But this is how they operate. Their perception of a guy is he's such a nice guy and such a in other words, a weak-ass bitch, that I can cheat on him. In a few weeks when he cools off and he's so desperate for me and pining for me, I can offer him friendship and he'll take it. And then I can milk him some more. That's what they think. I listened to her as she said all these things, focusing more on eating my sandwich and the fries. Once she finished telling me how she didn't betray me, I responded. I said to her, okay, first of all, the fact of the matter is that when you think what you think is unimportant, at this point, whether or not we are friends is up to me, so it's my opinion that matters. I think you're lying and I cannot trust you. I don't have friends I can't trust. And quite honestly, it's been my experience that when a woman says, I still want to be friends, what they're really saying is, I know I screwed you, but I want to ease my conscience. That's one part of it. And it's also bad of keeping you around like a little puppy dog, a little show dog to show everybody, look at all these guys I have in the friend zone. Ha, 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 ha. And use you when she needs something. Remember, the attention and validation. I then continue saying, well, I'm not going to make it that easy for you. If you want my friendship, then you will have to initiate any activities we do together, and you will be the one paying for them. There you go. I don't think she wants to be friends anymore. If you don't like that, I'm fine with it. As far as I'm concerned, you are out of my life, and you choosing to say no won't impact me in the slightest. Well, good for you. And you're getting a free lunch out of this, supposedly. And you're saying your piece. She wasn't expecting this. I bet you she found you a little attractive at that moment because you were actually acting like a fucking man. I said to her, if you work hard, if you spend the time showing that you can be a good friend, then maybe you might earn my trust back. But it will require a lot of effort on your part. And quite honestly, I don't think you have it in you to put in the effort. She was probably sitting there looking dumbstruck while she's trying to eat her french fries. She then started swearing that she would do whatever it takes to earn my trust again, but still will not admit to any wrongdoing. Women and accountability. I'm sure you probably issued a smack for giving her the option, but the truth of the matter is I had no intention of ever trusting her again. Well, good, because if you didn't try to trust her again, then I'd smack the shit out of you. Guys, somebody screws you ever once, don't ever give them the chance to do it again, because if you do, at that point then, yeah, they're still an asshole, but then you are too for putting yourself back in the same situation and trusting these motherfuckers. Quite honestly, I just wanted to screw with her for betraying me. Okay, I have no problem with that. Anyway, the waitress brought the check over, and it was at this moment when Cindy looked at me a little sheepishly and said she didn't have any money to pay the bill. I'm sure if Chad wanted some money, your former roommate, she'd have money to pay for Chad. And didn't you say, we're going to go out tomorrow for lunch and you're going to pay the bill? Okay. Yeah. I suspected something like this would happen, so I smiled at her and said, I'll take care of things, before getting up and going up to the register, leaving her at the table. Now, I'm sure at this point you're probably saying smack for me getting up, but I think I handled it correctly. I went and talked to the waitress at the register and told her that I needed to pay for my food and mine alone, and that Christy would have to be responsible for her own food. I'm sure you think I should have left her there with the entire bill, but I didn't want there to be any legal ramifications, and this way I could say that I paid for my food while still leaving her with the bill. Yeah, it'd be funny if you left her paying the bill, but that could come back to bite you in the ass, and you don't need that shit. So yeah, pay your part, because I guarantee that waitress wouldn't have gotten any tip. After making sure I tipped the waitress generously, I told her that I wouldn't trust Christy to leave her license behind as collateral, because I knew it would not have the correct address on it. I then walked out of the restaurant and left her there. Good for you, man. Good for you. Serves her right. I went home and took the phone off the hook and went about enjoying the rest of my weekend. I'm sure she probably called you 60 times. Well, 2 days later, when I was in the break room back at work, Christy came storming in, furious at me for leaving her at the restaurant, telling me that she had to call Chad to bring her money for the food. Like Chad has any money. Because he was broke and didn't have a job, he had to ask his parents for the money. Man, these two are two peas in a pod, one loser after the other. As she yelled at me, telling me what a shit I was, I just laughed at her as I told her that I was quite clear who was paying for lunch. Needless to say, she never asked me out to go on a friend date again, but I never expected that she would. Well, good for you. She deserves a little humiliation and embarrassment. She certainly embarrassed and hurt you. About a week later, she left Chad and started dating one of the cooks at the restaurant that we worked with. Shocker. About a month after that, she left with another cook from the restaurant, and the two of them decided to go on a road trip to Alaska. I thought that would be the end of the story, but it was about 3 or 4 weeks later that the first cook told me what ended up happening to Christy. Oh, do tell. We want to hear. Well, apparently Christy and the second cook had made it all the way up to Alaska on their road trip. When they reached Alaska, the two of them decided that it would be a great idea to take a nap on the beach in Alaska. As the cook was telling me this story, I stopped him for a moment and asked the question, don't they have high tides up there that are like 20 feet? He says, the benefit of having a father who's an outdoorsman, that I learned from an early age to respect nature and be aware of your surroundings. Well, it's funny you should say that because I remember going to Alaska like 20-some years ago in June. It was awesome. And I remember somebody there, we went on a boat ride and everything. I was with family. And mentioning just how high the tides can come up because they have the boats. The boats were down really low in the dock, the long ropes to them. And they said, yeah, it comes all the way up like 20 feet. Well, there you go. Anyhow, he just smiled and nodded before he continued. Apparently, the two of them took their nap on the beach, and when they woke up, the tide had come in, trapping her car on the beach. She actually has a car? I can't believe it. In effect, Christy's car was ruined and couldn't be moved except with the help of heavy equipment. Hey, couldn't happen to a nicer girl. It ended up costing all their money to get it moved or they would have faced serious legal trouble for abandoning their vehicle on the beach like that. In the end, she had to call her father to buy her a plane ticket to bring her home, him back in the continental United States, and all her belongings were ruined along with her car. Again, couldn't happen to a nicer girl. I never saw or heard from her or what happened to her and Chad ever again. About a month later, I started dating Cindy, and you know all about that story. And shortly afterwards, I left for basic training. Well, I'm not sure that you have many lessons to impart, but here are a few I'll humbly submit for consideration. Number 1, don't let a girl friend zone you after breaking up. They only want to ease their conscience when they know they're done wrong. Yes, they want to ease their conscience and also maybe publicly not look as bad, but also remember they want to keep you around, pining for them, for their giant egos, and for attention and validation. But also you can be the guy's backup that if they're having a bad day, they can get you to take them out for drinks, hoping to get them back, and they get a free drinks, free dinner, free therapy, all that. So never accept a friend zone, guys. Think about it. I mean, would you respect yourself for doing that? Of course not. Number 2, the tides in Alaska, not to mention nature in general, can be extremely dangerous. Be aware and respect them. And 3, don't date carnies. As always, keep up the good work and have a blessed new year. Well, thank you, bro, and I hope you're having a good new year, too. Yes, add carnies to the list with nurses and probably certain teachers and all. Anyhow, good story there. But it's always funny, a good friend zone story that backfires on the girl. And also, remember, guys, who you get involved with, who you date, who you give your heart to. This guy should know darn freaking well, don't date your coworker in the restaurant. In restaurants, they're all sleeping together. And also, a former carny whose job is getting around, moving around. They're not going to stick around. And don't trust your girlfriends with your buddies that are like total chads, who've proven to have no moral compass whatsoever. That's the lesson of the story. But anyhow, there you go. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story to share? Definitely send it over, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it works, I'll definitely cover it. Keep them coming. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.